May was kidding me today about everybody coming in a little bit late earlier, and I told her that the honest truth was that my mom, I buried her 30 minutes late. Because she said that she was 30 minutes late for everything, so just go ahead and bury her 30 minutes late. So I did. I did exactly what she said.
How many pages?
4 altogether.
I want y'all to go back and sort of, y'all know the story of David and Jonathan and Saul. Everybody pretty much knows the story of Samuel here. So I'm just going to use a little bit of imagination to go with how Psalms 57, 1 through 4 was very pertinent, okay? It changed everything because you know that from 1 Samuel, from the first chapter up to the 24th chapter, David's full of vengeance. He's out there. He's a warrior. He's racking up kills and notching his belt, and he's doing all the 9 yards, right? After 24, from 24 to 30, you see a totally different David because of this song and his choice on embracing the omnipresence and the omnipotence of God. Okay? Imagine that your best friend is the king's son and you are David, and he and Jonathan have professed his undying loyalty to you, and the two of you have made a commitment to join your territories under which your fathers have dominion. You have this right only because you have saved this land time and again. And you're a warrior. You're David. You're powerful. You're well thought of. But your friend has no interest in war. He, Jonathan, just wants to serve under you. He's going to be fine with you being king of this whole territory. And his father is in control of all of Israel at this time. Now, his father's got some issues, okay? He's got power struggles within. He's easy to make jealous. He listens to rumors. He goes with what's on the outside of him. You ever see people that are dictated by what's on the outside of them, and that makes the difference about whether or not they have a peace of mind? Okay. Where does peace of mind come from? Yeah, and from inside you, right? It's peace of mind. It's not what everybody else is thinking or doing. It's inside you. And Saul didn't have this. All the way down to the very end, so he throws himself on his sword, he never finds it. And it's really pitiful. But one of the things that it goes back to is that this psalm, when he prays this psalm, we'll go into it a little bit more, he thinks he's praying for Saul. But we're never really praying for the other person. If somebody is driving me crazy at work, at home, somewhere in another state, there's something wrong with me. It don't have anything to do with them. And David finally gets it. It takes him 24 chapters for Samuel to get it, but he finally gets it. But this Jonathan's father that's in control of Israel at the time, his father is just this funny person, and then your father is Jesse, and he owns land around Bethlehem, but the prophets say it's going to have a significant interest in the future. Jonathan sets up a situation where he thinks it's going to make his father want you to join the two territories, want him to embrace this idea of joining these two territories together. And he sets up this banquet. And he says to you, don't come the first night. I'm just going to put your chair like this. And wait for my dad to miss you and ask where you are. Because, David was a really good woman. He says, well, do it again the second night. The third night you can come in and he's just going to really like you. Does that happen? If somebody really doesn't like me, guess what? No amount of missing me is going to make a bit of difference, right? So I'm just like, that's the truth. Amen, okay. But it is, so Saul does what? He throws the spear at you and you run. And then he goes, and within minutes, He's calling an army, and that army is chasing around after you all over the place. 17 different places. So you run. And when you were a child, you did something that started off all of this about you. You slay a giant. And you slay that giant with what? Stones? Oh, you knocked him out with a stone. Where did you get him there? You killed him with your knife that you used to cut the throats of wolves and to cut the throats of lions. And you carried that with you. And then when that happened, the priest in that area, his name was Ahimelech, takes that knife and he puts it away, knowing that one day you're going to need that knife. So you run and run and run, and you go over to where Ahimelech is doing his priestly duties, right? And you say to him, I need something, right? I need food. And I need weapons because I just ran out of this banquet. I came for a banquet. Now, when you come to church for dinner, you don't come with your side pieces, right? You don't think about, well, I'll just run to need that. Let me just go in the compartment. No, you don't. You just walk right into a banquet. So he's gone out. He's been running around. He doesn't have weapons with him. And so he goes to Ahimelech, and Ahimelech gives him this knife. And it has been kept razor sharp all these years. So Ahimelech has this knife, and he gives it to David. And David, and you say, well, I'm just going to go. I'm going to leave. And I'm going to spend, I need an army. Well, as it would happen, there were people in the area that needed work because they were behind on their bills. There were 400 people in the area, and they were the most destitute in all the land. Okay? They were the most in debt, the poorest, the most desperate, and just plain tore up from the floor up, right? And you don't turn to God and say, what in the world did you send me these? Now, that happens sometimes. Anybody ever been there? Okay. The Lord just sent you somebody new, and you want to know, what in the world? This person can't do this, can't do that, can't do the other. God, what are you thinking? Oh, I got that. Yeah. What were you thinking? God is thinking down the road. Because those 400 people, not a one got killed in battle. And you're going to win several battles. And those 400 people, they went and lived with you with the Philistines later on. And not a one of them complained. Now you're going to have your time with them. Okay? Because there are going to be times when you have gone to them and have said, God sent me to go over and do this. And they're going to look at you and they're going to say, what? Go back and ask God again. Now when you go back and you ask God again, what happens? Does God genuinely change his mind? No. And with David, he didn't either. He was like, oh, okay, I'm going to repeat this again. I'm sending you out over to the Philistines. So he goes back and he tells them that. And at first they don't believe. But he goes out and he goes to this big battle and he wins. That then goes all over the place. And who hears about it? Saul. So Saul's like, I've got him now. Well, Ahimelech has sent you 200 more people. They're people who don't want to fight. So you have 200 pacifists and 400 people who can't pay the bills. And they're all going to be right there with you to the dying end. And you go and you say, well, I am going to do whatever the Lord has me to do. And by this time in the Psalms, you're about ready to pen Psalms 56. that? You go to this place called Separation Rock, and you look out with your men, and you know that you are completely surrounded by Saul's 3,000 people. Now, Saul doesn't have just 3,000 people. Saul has gone out, and he has picked to fight against you 3,000 of the best warriors that are anywhere in Israel. Okay? So Saul has done this, and all around your 600 people that don't quite have fighting down yet, you're surrounded. And you pen Psalms 56, and what happens? You look around, and suddenly everybody's gone but your 600 men. They left. At that point in time, you didn't know what happened. You found out later that somebody unknowingly told Saul that they were needed over to fight the Philistines, and they weren't. But you know, Saul and rumors, he likes to listen to them. And so that one sort of burned him, and he left. And when he goes back home, he's angry. He's wanting you. There is at the top of a pinnacle near the Dead Sea a hillside where you can see all around. And kings have been going there for centuries to look out so they can see people coming. And you want to know where Saul is. And you're on your way there, and you go up through the valley there. And you stop in when it gets dark, and you stop in a cave. You and your 600 guys who are finally getting it now, a little bit. And they're behind you. And you rest. But before you rest, you do something. You write Psalms 57. And when you write Psalms 57, you change. You go to bed a different person. Now let's look at Psalms 57. The first thing about it is that we're going to see that he writes a mission statement at the top. It's called Do Not Destroy, and it's written in Hebrew. And somehow or another, when it got to Wycliffe, they changed it, and it said that it was sung to Do Not Destroy. No, I went back to the original Hebrews, and it says, Do Not Destroy, okay? That is the name of it. That is the mission statement for that particular song. Do not destroy. David thinks at the time that he's writing these words, do not destroy, he's talking about himself and his 600. He does not realize that when we write prayers, we're writing about ourselves. In the second verse of Psalm 57, it goes into something, well, the first actual written verse that we have is 57:1. It goes into something we call the publican's prayer as Christians. Lord, have mercy on me, a sinner. That is the second key to a life-changing prayer, is knowing where we are in relationship to God and coming in with the right attitude. And the third is found a little bit further down, and it says, and he's got me under his wing. You've got pictures of the rock there. It looks like a wing. But he could have said, Lord, you got me in this cave, and it's damp, and there's like this waterfall outside, and, you know, my guys, and look at what all, he could have been whining. But he wasn't. He was positive. He was grateful. He was thankful. He said, Lord, you've got me under your protective wing, and I thank you. You've put me in this cave here tonight, and I thank you. If you look at the next verse, you get the fourth key. And that is undying trust that God's going to take care of you. if you follow His will. Now, y'all know what this is? That's the key to my new car. Right? Now, y'all saw my old car. I did not care who drove that car. Oh, somebody bought the bin finger in it one time. I just looked at it. I was like, oh, okay. Made a little bit more creative in the back. You know, what can you say? Nobody. I don't even let the pastor eat in my car. That is my car. I don't hand those keys over to anybody. Ever. That's just how I feel about it. How I feel about my life and about me. In fact, I don't hand myself over to anybody. Never. But I have to hand this key of my life over to God and let Him drive. And you know what I can't do, and probably do too much of? Shouldn't do? Driving from that passenger seat. That's it. That's exactly it. Driving from that passenger seat. I should not do it. I do it. Lord, don't you think that we should be doing that up there? I see some social justice that needs to get done, and I just think we should do it right now. The Lord said, can you wait? We haven't gotten there yet. But Lord, you know, I think we should do this, this, and this. At least we haven't gotten there yet. I'm the worst. Are we there yet to God? I really am. We all have our reasons for not wanting to turn it all over and just let Him drive. You know what? And I could be enjoying this life with Him so much more if I would just hush and appreciate the scenery around me. Now, God never gives me a sermon for other people. I just want y'all to know that. Just don't happen for me. And so, you know, I understand that. But the fifth and final key you will find in the fourth verse. Change David forever. In the fourth verse, he asks for God to send His loving kindness and mercy in him. Now, that word there, for those of us who have dealt with the military, is command. I want you to command your love and mercy into His face. And I'm sure it's like me, when I pray a prayer, I'm thinking, do not destroy me. Let me thank you for all this stuff. And Lord, can you please send your loving kindness to the person who's been wanting to murder me since his son said we were going to join territories? You know, that's not where He's going with that, because when you turn it over to God's will, and then you say, Lord, fill it up with your blessings, one, you've lost control, and two, God will transform everything. So the next morning, after writing this prayer, you're sitting in that cave with your 600 guys who are beginning to get it, and Saul comes in to have a private moment alone. It is the only time when he does not have all of his people with him. He has told them to leave him alone. He's fine. He thinks he's going in this cave because where's Saul going? Saul is on his way up to the very top of that mountain so he can look for David, right? So he comes into that cave to have a quiet moment, and he absolutely does not see David. So David's 600 guys are going, hey, perfect timing. And David does something a little different. He pulls out that knife. It was about this size. Wait now.
Just so you're paying attention.
He reaches over and he grabs the hem of Saul's garment, and he's got a hold of that. That garment's on the ground, right? It says, at least in the King James, it says it's around his But what happens when he touches that garment? I mean, he prayed a prayer for God's love and mercy to flood through Saul and all his enemies. He didn't think about the fact that it would include what he was wearing. He touches that garment and it pricks his heart. Now, where have we heard that before? Somebody touches a garment and suddenly they feel love. Woman with issues. So you just, we know that when we pray, it changes things. So he waits for Saul to finish and come out to the light, and when he does, David is prostrate. He's on the ground in front of him. Prostrate in front of this whole 3,000 people, ready to kill him. And he says, I could have returned evil for evil, but I did not. And from there on, that day, Saul leaves him alone. He comes back after him again, and it happens again. And David says, I'm not going to return evil for evil. I'm going to return good. And it happens again. But the truth of the matter is, it will always be, if we have asked for God's love and mercy, we have truly turned our lives over. Vengeance is ours now. Now, I am a big believer that these 5 keys, because they cover omnipresence, because they cover omnipotence, are life-changing. I have seen them change my life this week. God can rule. And with that, I'd like to have them do the same thing. I've come up with some questions that just have to do with, you don't have to share it out loud, but, what's your mission statement? If you had to write down for a prayer this week, what would it be? He said, do not destroy. So maybe better health, more stability, vitality in our church, love and community. What would be the name of a prayer that you would write tonight? What would be your mission statement? And the second one is, are you square with God? I've already admitted I have trouble with that. Sometimes I want to be the Pharisee. I did this. Anybody see what I did? But God can knock you down. I shared with Deacon Thornton this week. My dad gave me a beautiful book. My dad this will be his last year probably. He's giving me some of his stuff every time I see him. So one of the things he gave me was a translation from Greek, direct from Greek right in English, done by Miss Montgomery, who set up a lot of the colleges for women, a lot of the seminaries for women. She was with Susan B. Anthony and Helen Stanton, all these other people. So she was just really this very focused woman who cared so much about translations of the Bible. And I got into 2 Timothy about how I should be more subservient. And boy, it brought me down some notches. But God will speak to you when you need to be spoken to if you want to listen.
Can I interject here? Because when we look